Red Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. It is a beautiful Wednesday, October 8th. Hope everybody is having a great day so far. We have a lot to get into. It is Wednesday, which means it is time for our NFL shows. We're going to go over my big questions from the NFL Week 5. We'll go over our power rankings as we do each and every single Wednesday. And then we're going to finish off our show talking a little bit about the massive trade that took place yesterday between Joe Flacco and the Browns. Now, being on the Bengals, collecting one more punch in his AFC North punch card. 3 out of 4. Not too shabby for the veteran over there. See if he can make it over to the Steelers before the end of his career. We'll talk about all of that and much more, but we're going to start off with the NFL questions. Lessons learned from week 5 of the NFL here today. There are a lot of things we can take away from it. A lot of good, a lot of bad. But I want to start off with the Thursday night football game. I want to start off with what we learned from that Thursday night football game. You know what I learned from that Thursday night football game? What I really already knew. Any quarterback can be successful in the Kyle Shanahan offensive system as long as they listen to him. It's that kind of situation where your head coach and your system is so good that it doesn't matter what you have behind center as long as they are operating your offense as it is designed. We saw him take Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl. We've seen him take Brock Purdy to a Super Bowl. Now look what he's doing with one Mac Jones. Mac Jones has not been good since his rookie season when he had the support of a defensive player of the year and a very solid defense behind him, along with probably the best weapons of his career. Now, he is blessed with some really good weapons over in San Francisco, like Christian McCaffrey, but the rest of the weapons just aren't quite there. Kendrick Bourne went for 143 yards, right? That's not something that I don't think anybody had on their bingo card at the beginning of the year. Kendrick Bourne, 143 yards. And if you had that on your bingo card, I applaud you for being Nostradamus and being able to see the future. I don't expect anybody else to really see that or really have predicted that. But the question now becomes, you've paid Brock Purdy, right? You've given him $55 million a year. He is your guy. But with how good Mac Jones is playing, is it Purdy or is it the system? And that was always the question surrounding Purdy, right? When he first came in, he takes over for Jimmy and he goes on this magical run. And then he just continues to win. And then he deals with injuries and everyone on that team gets destroyed. And they decide, you know what? Brock Purdy is the guy. He is a floor raiser. He's a guy that's going to make a difference for us. And he gets paid. But now we're seeing Mac Jones do a similar thing. And look, I will say, I still think Purdy is better than Mac Jones. You look at the little things that he can do, especially extending the play with his legs. That's stuff that, is not built into that Shanahan offense. But when a play breaks down, you need to be able to make something. But at the same time, one of the reasons that Purdy hasn't been as successful as Jones in really this last year is because there is this change in his philosophy, I guess. He's throwing the ball less, trying to make things happen more when he needs to just play within the system a little bit. And some of that comes with losing your weapons, right? You trade away Debo, you lose Brandon Ayuk after paying him. He hasn't played more than 3 games since he's been paid Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle is in and out of the lineup. Christian McCaffrey in and out of the lineup. The offensive line is dealing with injuries. That's just a chronically injured San Francisco squad. But Mac Jones is making it work. He's doing it with guys like Kendrick Bourne. He's doing it with Christian McCaffrey who's healthy. He's doing it without Ayuk, without Debo, without George Kittle, right? These are things that you can get done, and you're seeing it against what was a really good defense in the Rams. So the question I'll pose to you is Purdy going to get his job back? And if so, how short is the leash, right? Purdy will get his job back. I guess I phrased that a little bit weird. Purdy's going to get his job back, but is Mac Jones proving that he can be an NFL starting caliber quarterback again? Or is he proving that he is someone that can be really successful in a system? Is he someone that is what we're going to call a system merchant. There's a couple quarterbacks like that, right? You have your Brock Purdy's, you have your Jared Goffs, you have your Mac Jones, your Jimmy Garoppolo's. You have guys like this that are system quarterbacks is what I'll call them. These are guys that are only going to be successful if you have a good system or good talent, and most importantly, a good offensive line all around them. I'll throw Sam Darnold into that category as well, with Clint Kubiak over there, Kevin O'Connell the year before. There are plenty of guys that have seen success, have been lauded as top 10 quarterbacks even. Daniel Jones can go into this category as well, right? You get him into a good system. You saw it with Dable that first year. That worked out really well, and now you're seeing it over there with Shane Steichen. It's working over there with the Colts, right? There are lots of things to like with these system quarterbacks, but you have to get them in the right system, and I think that's something that NFL teams need to understand. The reason Brock Purdy got paid so much is because Brock Purdy was in the Kyle Shanahan system. He's a good quarterback, but he's nothing more than a good quarterback. He's nothing more than what Jared Goff is at his peak of his powers, which is a good quarterback. I think the people calling Jared Goff top 10 are kind of crazy because he can't do it if there's pressure in his face. Now, Purdy can make something happen, but at the end of the day, the question being stated, is this going to be what opens the eyes for NFL teams? I know it's a risk. There was lots of conversations about paying Brock Purdy or not this NFL offseason. They go out and they do it because I feel like they kind of had their hands tied. You can't really go out and take the risk of not signing him. But at the same time, in that Shanahan system, maybe they just don't need a quarterback to be successful. Question number 2 that I had for you guys here. I want to go a little bit more onto the Sunday side of things, and I want to focus on the rookie quarterbacks. I'm going to start off in New York here. The Jackson Dart era has started. They win the first game against the Chargers. They look to be going 2-0 against the Saints. They start off hot. 2 straight drives down the field. Finds tight end Theo Johnson twice. Goes up 14-3. Nice lead. But then everything just crumbles. It's not that Jackson Dart started playing bad. It's that they got a couple bad breaks. Darius Slayton drops a deep ball. Darius Slayton fumbles. Then Jackson Dart fumbles. Then Cam Scatterbu fumbles in the second half. All of these are after long drives. Jackson Dart played what I would say is a solid football game. He didn't do anything special. He did have that one atrocious fumble where he just dropped the football. That's unacceptable, but it's a rookie mistake. You'll learn. He threw his first interception. There were some bad plays. Don't get me wrong with Jackson Dart. There were some plays that make me want to cover my eyes, scream, and throw him off of the team. But at the same time, Jackson Dart made plays with his legs that we haven't seen in a long time. I think Jackson Dart is going to have success here in the future, and I know they just lost to the Saints. I'm well aware of that. That's not something that's going to, change. But still, there is a lot to like with him in a system. Again, we just finished talking about system quarterbacks. You put Jackson Dart in a system, one designed by a good offensive mind, a good offensive play caller like Brian Dable, they can be successful. You get more weapons around him. You have to remember, he's doing this without his best weapon. Now his best weapon on that team right now is who? Cam Scatterbu? Is it Wan'Dale Robinson? Is it Darius Slayton? Theo Johnson? This is not an offense that has any kind of elite playmaker. You lose Malik Neighbors. Tyrone Tracy's coming back. Is he the best weapon over there? No, he's not going to be. You don't have a weapon for Jackson Dart. So it's not going to be a good season. It's not going to be an easy season at all for the Giants. But still, there are things to like with Jackson Dart's performance, and I'm not ready to crucify him after one bad loss with a bunch of turnovers. On the other side of the coin, Dillon Gabriel makes his debut against a Vikings defense that can confuse even Peyton Manning, right? They had him on the Manning cast, and the Vikings were playing on Monday Night Football, and Brian Flores confused Peyton Manning. And yet Dillon Gabriel goes out, doesn't throw an interception, 2 touchdowns. He looks really solid. Now, the game plan was easy, as it should have been for a rookie quarterback making their first start over across the pond in London, going up against a good defense, a really tough defensive scheme. They relied on the run game and Quinshon Judkins, who had a good game. They relied on the short passing game. But Dylan Gabriel didn't turn the ball over against a defense that famously is really hard to read. And that is impressive. They move off of Joe Flacco, I think, because they saw what Dylan Gabriel did, and they're like, you know what, we're not going to need to go back to him. Worst comes to worst, we put in Shadur Sanders, our other rookie. Give him a shot. Dylan Gabriel, I think, looked really solid, and I think that's exactly what I want to see. But the question here for you guys, is Dylan Gabriel the answer? After one game, and I know it's a small sample size, are you willing to say Dylan Gabriel is the answer? Dylan Gabriel is going to be the quarterback of the future for the Browns, or are you still skeptical? And what more do you need to see out of the quarterback from Oregon to make him to make you believe that he could be a future star quarterback in the NFL? Last two questions that I have for you guys here. I'm going to start off with the MVP race. The MVP race is weird this year, right? I'm not going to lie to you. It's wild seeing guys like Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones near the top of the MVP list. But at the top of that list right now, I believe, has to be one Baker Mayfield. The Bucs are 4-1. Baker Mayfield's stats are amazing. You look at what he's been able to do over the first 5 weeks of this NFL season. They have won 4 games, yes, but it hasn't been super easy. Their defense is playing it about as minimally bad as they possibly can, right? They're giving up about 30 points per game, right? But every single time they go out there, they have Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield, without fail, has led them down the field. Other than the Eagles game, where again, he still did lead them down the field. He made a couple big plays, but they were just a blocked punt return for a touchdown away from winning that football game. This is Baker Mayfield MVP frontrunner. We had Justin Herbert up here for a little bit, and he should still deserve to be near here, despite the numbers kind of falling off over the last couple weeks with the 2 losses to the NFC East squads. Justin Herbert hasn't done anything wrong. That's a question. That's a question for another week. He's going to continue to be Mr. Hypothetical if man kind of situation, but you go and look at that game, and I'm getting off topic here. Justin Herbert's not the problem, and anyone that thinks Justin Herbert is the problem is just insane, wrong, and has not watched football. They're box score watchers, and if they watch Justin Herbert play, they'll see that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the entirety of the NFL. Outside of that, again, the question posed, should Baker Mayfield be the MVP frontrunner? The Bucs are 4-1, largely due to the fact that Baker Mayfield is being magical, right? 4 game-winning drives. The first time that's been done in the first 5 games of an NFL season since the NFL merger in 1970, right? It hasn't been done since the NFL merger in 1970, which for all intensive purposes, and I know you can go back to the NFL championships back in like the 20s, I don't count those years when we're going to stats. The NFL merger is the first one that I count when we're talking about this kind of thing. So since the NFL really began in earnest in 1970, this has never been done before. 4 out of 5 games with game-winning drives. Baker Mayfield has been clutch, super clutch. Emeka Egbuka has stepped up big time. This is a Bucs team that's going to be very dangerous. And Baker Mayfield currently, at least in my opinion, your NFL MVP front runner. Last question that I had for you guys, and then we're going to move on to NFL power rankings. We're going to talk a little bit about the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens. 3 teams that were Super Bowl favorites heading into the year. The Eagles defending Super Bowl champions. Of course, you have the Chiefs, who are always a threat. The Ravens, who I believe were favorites after building a really strong-looking roster, at least on paper. But now the Eagles lose their first game, and they haven't really looked super competitive in a lot of these other games, right? They've had to rely on some fluky wins, blocked punt against the Bucs, a couple blocked field goals against the Rams to escape. A.J. Brown has not been getting the ball. This reminds me of the year after they made it to the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley has not been getting involved in this offense as much. Jalen Hurts is winning games, but it's dangerous. This reminds me of the Chiefs from last year. And of course, the Chiefs went on to make the Super Bowl. So I'm not super concerned about this Eagles team, but it is playing with fire a little bit. And I don't think Jalen Hurts is that same level of quarterback as Patrick Mahomes. I don't think Nick Sirianni is that same level of coach as Andy Reid is. And I think having the luck go your way is partially because you have guys that can just make magic happen, like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. When you have Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, you can make that happen, but it's not going to happen to the same degree. It's not going to be the same level of success. So if they keep putting themselves in these situations, they're going to win more than they lose, but they're not going to win more than they lose like the Chiefs did last year where they won 15 games. They're going to be looking more at like a 10-win season and sneaking into a playoffs because that team in the Commanders is going to be right on their tail. The way that Jaden Daniels is playing right now, the way that Debo is playing right now, getting Terry back, that's not going to be a lock-up division, especially if they keep playing the way that they are. A couple big division games coming up for them. They got the Giants on Thursday. But what's wrong with the Chiefs? We're asking this all of last season, right? Why can't the Chiefs win games? Why can't the Chiefs pull away? Patrick Mahomes and the offense now finally are going, right? They've put up 30 points just about in each of the last 3 weeks, and yet they're 2-3. They dismantle that Ravens team that is dealing with a million injuries, right? And that's why the Ravens aren't there. They need to get injuries fixed quickly or they're going to miss the playoffs. You have the defense that just hasn't been up to par. And when you look at the Chiefs team, what's been a huge thing that powers their dynasty is that defense, led by Chris Jones, who, like the last play against the Jaguars, just kind of took off. That's not acceptable. They're at the goal line. I know Trevor Lawrence went down. You can kind of think that, oh, he's not getting back up. We'll get to him. But once he gets back up and he starts sprinting, you have to start sprinting too. You have to start going for him. He could have caught him. I don't think Trevor Lawrence would have broken a Chris Jones tackle, especially in that situation. I truly do believe that. They had similar situation at the goal line earlier in the game, and the Chiefs were able to force a fumble. Of course, it wasn't a fall down, get up kind of situation, but Chris Jones needs to play with more effort. That defense needs to play with more effort. I think the Chiefs have gotten it into their head, especially after the last couple seasons, that they can just kind of coast in the regular season, but not this year. That division is good. You still have the Broncos. You still have the Chargers ahead of them. The Raiders aren't going to be too much of a threat, but you have these teams ahead of you that if you just walk through life, if you are the grasshopper in the grasshoppers and the ants fable, right? That just doesn't prepare for winter. Winter is going to come and it's going to be frigid for you. You're not going to be ready. When it comes down to crunch time, I believe the Chiefs can turn it on, but I think crunch time is going to be earlier for the Chiefs than it has been in years past with how good that division is. So those are my big questions following week 5 in the NFL. Was the Cards the worst loss ever? Right. Sorry, I forgot about that one. That was atrocious. I do want to touch on that before we get too far here. That was the worst loss I've ever seen in my entire life. The Cardinals lose on an Emari Demercado dropped touchdown after he broke a 70-yarder, just drops it at the half-yard line, which is unacceptable, right? You cannot drop the ball. I don't understand how NFL players don't do that. He's never seeing the field again, or at least if I was the coach, I wouldn't let him see the field again, despite the running back room being injured to all hell. I'm also super pissed at that defense. They made a great play, a tipped pass, an interception, and then you fumble it. And instead, number 13 on the defense goes for a backwards slap. He slapped it backwards into his end zone like 3 times where Tyler Lockett falls on it. And then you have to stop them again. You can't. You let Cam Ward drive down the field 3 times in the fourth quarter. An offense that was unable to get anything done drives down the field 3 times in the fourth quarter. First signs of life for the first overall pick in Cam Ward, and they could not get it done. The Cardinals, the most embarrassing loss that I've ever seen. Was it the worst loss ever, though? That's my question. What's the real Jackson Dart? That's my other question. Is Dylan Gabriel for real? Is Mac Jones better than Brock Purdy? Is Baker the MVP frontrunner? And what is going on with the Eagles, Chiefs, and Ravens? How do they become Super Bowl favorites yet again? Those are my 6 takeaways, my 6 questions from NFL Week 5. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the NFL Power Rankings. The Power Rankings right around the corner for Week 5. Strap in for those. NFL Power Rankings right around the corner. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful Wednesday, October 8th. If you are just tuning in, we just went over my 6 questions from the NFL in Week 5. Go check that out if you missed that already. In this segment, we are going to turn our attention over to the NFL Power Rankings, our NFL Week 5 tiers, as we like to call it. It is a weird week in the NFL. There are so many teams in the worst tier, the awful tier here, but we're just going to go straight 32-1. The first 5 teams I've got are in that awful tier. We're going to start off with the only 0-5 team in the NFL right now, that being the New York Jets. The New York Jets 0-5 on this season, and it has not been a pretty 0-5, let me tell you. Despite a couple of high moments, that offense has just not been good enough. The defense with Aaron Glenn, who was supposed to come in and fix it, has been one of the worst in football. They have not looked competitive, and the Jets, for the first time, fall to the number 32 slot. The Titans get a win. Claps for the Titans. Congratulations. They're here at 31. Cam Ward gets his first win of the NFL. All he had to do was tell everyone, tell his team, for the world to hear, that they were playing like ass. That is bad. The Titans at number 31. The Saints at number 30 get their first win. Shout out to Spencer Rattler. Was 0-10 in his first 10 career starts heading into that one. Now gets his first career win. The Saints 1-4 on the year, beat up on the Giants with a really nice defensive performance. Saints move up 2 spot, their highest rank ever at number 30. The Bengals at number 29. This is despite Joe Flacco coming in, not because of it. Joe Flacco, I think, is just going to be another extension of Jake Browning, except I think he's going to throw the ball downfield. That's the only difference. Jake Browning and Joe Flacco, I think, are a very similar tier of quarterback. They're still going to throw a lot of interceptions. They're still going to throw a lot of interceptions. But what Joe Flacco brings to the table is that Joe Flacco will just bomb it downfield. That is something that they have not had. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to eat a little bit. Maybe they can get the running game going, but that defense is still probably the worst in the NFL, and because of that, they're not going to win many games. Bengals at 29. At 28, I've got the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have played a couple of hard-fought games. They blow this one. They don't have Tyreek Hill, but I am impressed with the way that they played against what is a solid Miami defense. Dolphins up to number 28. I still need to see more, but I am not as gung-ho on moving off of McDaniel right now if he continues to play like this. Do I think he's still going to get fired? Yes, absolutely. But mid-season, I don't know about that. At number 27, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. Almost said Oakland there. The Raiders have been just the worst in the NFL. I cannot fathom how bad they've been. Geno Smith has thrown multiple interceptions in all but one game this season. He leads the league by a mile. It is just not working. Ashton Genty started to get going, but with Brock Bowers hurt, Trey Tucker has been your wide receiver 1. Jacoby Myers is going to get traded at the deadline, I believe. This is just a really bad Raiders team. They're at 27. 26 in the NFL, the New York Giants. The New York Giants lose with Jackson Dart to the Saints, but I don't think this was the real Giants squad. I love that defense. Brian Burns is feasting. The way that defense is playing is really good. It was all turnovers. I said it 5 times because they turned it over 5 times. The New York Giants, if they play clean football, will win a couple of games, although this one stings because it was particularly winnable. The Browns at number 25 move up. I really did like what I saw out of Dylan Gabriel. I'm a big fan of it. I like what we saw again against a very good defense. A Brian Flores defense is not easy to pick apart, and he didn't necessarily pick them apart, but he didn't make mistakes, which is huge to see. The moment wasn't too big for him. Shout out to him over across the pond. We'll see if he can continue it for the next couple of weeks. The Cardinals fall 6 spots. That was, again, maybe the worst loss I've ever seen. It's unacceptable to lose like that, not just because it's the Titans, but because the way they lost. We talked about it in the last segment right at the end. The Cardinals, unbelievable loss. I cannot believe that is how it ended. The Cowboys up one spot to number 23. Dak Prescott playing like a true MVP frontrunner. They're going to get CeeDee Lamb back, if not this week, then next week, and that is a huge thing to watch. That offense is about to explode. The defense playing a little bit better, but at the same time, it's not really good enough for me to say anything super positive about the Dallas Cowboys. The Bears at number 22, they were on bye. We're not going to punish them too much. They move up a spot just because other teams moved down, but I do like where this Bears team is at. They got a big revenge game. Revenge for the Hail Mary that took the soul of the Bears last season. They were 2-2, and then, they didn't win another game really after that. It was just all downhill from the Hail Mary. The Bears, Week 5, Monday Night Football, Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels should be a fun one. The Vikings are up here as well. I know they've been playing a couple of tight games. They just win against the Browns in London. They were there. They should have won that game. It shouldn't have been that close. Rookie quarterback, Brian Flores defense. Carson Wentz is doing what he's supposed to do. You'd like to see him not be as erratic with the ball, but as long as you have Justin Jefferson, you've got a chance. The Vikings stay put at 21. The Panthers at number 20, huge comeback victory. I'm a Bryce Young believer. You can tattoo that across my face. I believe in Bryce Young. He is going to be a good NFL quarterback, but he has his moments where he just is maybe the worst in the NFL, and then he turns it up. And when he turns it up, he's a real good quarterback. The Steelers stay at number 19. They had a bye week this week. Nothing more to say about them. The Falcons down 2 spots to number 18. This is a Falcons team that still is a little bipolar. They had a bye week last week. We'll see how they come off of the bye. That's going to be a big question for them. Patriots move up 3 spots, a dismantling of their division opponents, the Buffalo Bills. Drake May with a near-perfect game. Stephon Diggs had a nice revenge game, and this is a Patriots team that if they can keep playing like that, they get the Saints next week, build a little bit of momentum, they're going to be very dangerous when it comes to the NFL playoffs. The Ravens at number 16 here. They're down 4 spots. The Baltimore Ravens are a good team, guys. I swear. I promise. I know it might not look like it. They're 1-4. Half of their defense is out. In fact, more than half of their defense is out. They've just picked up CJ GJ from the waiver wire. He's going to play some safety for them, which I really do like as a pickup, actually. Lamar Jackson, hopefully he can come back and play soon. That division is kind of in shambles, so I won't say they have no chance of making the playoffs, but if they don't turn it around soon, it's going to be tough. They don't necessarily have the easiest schedule, right? Coming up after this, they're playing the Rams, then they get a much-needed bye week. Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Packers, Steelers. So it does get a little bit easier in the second half, but getting to that bye week is going to be huge. If they can find a way to knock off the Rams or at least make it tight a little bit, that would be huge for them. They're at number 16. The Seahawks up to number 15. Sam Darnold playing like an MVP candidate. Oh my God. I never thought those words would escape my mouth. The MVP frontrunners are disgusting right now. Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, right? Who would have guessed who would have guessed 3 years ago that those guys would be MVP frontrunners in the big 2025? I know I wouldn't have, and I would have laughed you out of the room. The Broncos at number 14. Welcome up to the playoff club, Denver Broncos. Big win over the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not convinced. It's a little scary, but that defense is playing great. Bo Nix needs to play better. They get a big win. Sean Payton passes Bill Parcells. Shout out to Sean Payton in the all-time coaching win list. He already has a Hall of Fame level career, and he is going to get in first ballot. The 49ers at number 13. Mac Jones continues to win them games. They probably should have lost that one. Issues on special teams to the Rams continue to hurt them. But the 49ers escape with a big division victory, and that NFC West is wide open for them with that win. The Texans up 2 spots to number 12. The offensive line survived against a solid pass rush, despite the Ravens still missing a couple of pieces. I believe in this Texans team. CJ Stroud is playing good. They have a bye week this week. Hopefully they can get some more stuff figured out. That defense is elite. Chiefs at number 11. They are back outside the top 10. A loss to the Jaguars puts them over here. That was a bad game. 2 touchdowns were practically gifted to them. A non-call on an offensive pass interference and it led to a Travis Kelce touchdown. Flag was picked up for that. That's crazy. A non-call on a defensive pass interference that led to a Kareem Hunt touchdown. That didn't have a flag on the ground, but also definitely a penalty. I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm not saying the Chiefs paid the refs, but I am saying that the Chiefs should have lost that game by more than they did. It was just a weird game on Monday Night Football. Getting into the top 10, though. The Chargers are still here. People are wanting to drop the Chargers real far, and I have dropped them. This is the worst spot I've had them all season. They're at number 10, but this is a Chargers team that I still believe in. Justin Herbert is playing amazing football. I don't care what you say. He should be in the MVP conversation. Justin Herbert is amazing. He's a top 5 quarterback. He is carrying that team, and everyone else around him is failing. The offensive line is down to 3rd and 4th stringers. The running backs are down to 3rd and 4th stringers. The pass catchers are doing the best that they can, but penalties are killers. Penalties are killers. 10 penalties in that game for the Chargers. It's ridiculous. Justin Herbert was pressured 45 times in that game by a Commanders defense that has really, really been bad at getting pressure on quarterbacks. The Chargers are a mess. They need to figure that out now. The Jaguars at number 9. Welcome into the top 10. Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence with a couple of magical plays after a couple of really bad plays. This is, again, a very bipolar team, but that defense is led by Devin Lloyd, who's a depoy candidate. He is going to be in that conversation. He's already got 4 interceptions on the year, including that 99-yard pick 6 for the Jaguars that helped lead them to victory on Monday Night Football. I'm a big fan of this Jags team. They're all the way up to number 9. Liam Cohen, Coach of the Year in my mind. The Colts, another Coach of the Year frontrunner, Shane Steichen over here. The Colts are up to number 8. Jonathan Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year frontrunner. 3 more touchdowns for him. They dismantle the Raiders. They continue to win the games they need to win. I'm curious how they're going to do against tough teams. We've seen them lose to the Rams. We've seen them probably should have lost to the Broncos, if not for a penalty, a leverage penalty, but that doesn't matter. The Colts are winning games. I'm not going to rain on their parade. Shout out Danny Dimes. Shout out the Colts. They are continuing to prove everybody wrong. The Commanders at number 7, they've been here for a while. They're going to continue to be here. They're still not at full strength, which is scary because you can see the offensive wheels start to click. Once they get Terry back and ready to go, this offense is going to explode. If that defense can play a little bit better, if they can hold teams to just 20 points a game, that should be enough for the Commanders to win a lot of football games this year. The Packers were on bye this week. That doesn't stop me. They're down a spot. I've been a little concerned with them. They gave up 40 points to the Cowboys. I know that's a good Cowboys defense, but you've got to be better than that. The Packers down to number 6. We'll see how they rebound this week against the Bengals. The Buccaneers into the top 5. Welcome, Baker Mayfield, to your home. The top 5. Baker Mayfield with another comeback victory against another really good defense in the Seattle Seahawks. I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of the Bucs. Ibuka's stepping up. You're going to get Mike Evans back soon. You already have Chris Godwin back. You'll get a couple more receivers back. Tristan Wirfs is back. He's playing good. You'll get Gadecki back eventually. A lot to like about this team. I'd like the defense to step up a little bit, though, before I move them truly into the top tiers of the NFC. The Rams at number 4. They just continue to play good football. They should have won this game. They should have won the game against the Eagles. I'm not the punishing type for games that you should have won, but that's now 2. And if it becomes a pattern is concerning. They're down to number 4. The Eagles down to number 3 after blowing that game against the Broncos. And maybe I should have punished them more, but I'm not. This is still a really good Eagles team, one of the best on paper. That was a couple mental mistakes that led to the Broncos playing some games. I need the offense to show up more. I do. It's really concerning that the offense is not showing up. Get Saquon involved. This is a get-right game against the Giants, but this is a good Giants team that's hungry to beat the Eagles. The Bills down 1 spot to number 2. They lose to the Pats. I know, a division game. But you had to win that one. The Bills had kind of been sleepwalking. They'd been playing with their food a little bit, and they continued to do that against the Patriots. But then turnovers hit. Josh Allen threw a couple interceptions, some fumbles. This is not how you win football games. Hopefully this is a wake-up call for the Bills because they're still, I think, the best team in football when they try. But at number 1, back at the top, for the first time this season, the Detroit Lions. The Lions have crawled all the way back from number 13 after a really bad week against the Packers in week 1. They have shown that they deserve to get respect. Jared Goff playing really great football. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is playing amazing. You have the running game that's back, and the loss of coordinators is not really hurting them at all, which is crazy. The defense now dealing with injuries again, so this feels like it's going to be a similar story. They're down their top 3 cornerbacks at the beginning of the season. Ennis Rakestraw in camp. They lose DJ Reed in this one. That is just a tough look. This is not good. Terrion Arnold dealing with an injury. He should be back soon, hopefully, for the Lions. But injuries have really hurt them throughout all of Dan Campbell's tenure. Hopefully they can get that figured out. But the Lions back to number 1. We'll run through our top 10, and then we'll take a look at where the AFC and NFC top 3s are, and you can tell me. Top 10 for week 5 power rankings. The Chargers, the Jags, the Colts, Commanders, Packers at number 6, Bucks at number 5, Rams at number 4, Eagles number 3, Bills number 2, and the Lions at number 1. But let's take a look at where we stand as far as conference rankings. People always want to look at the top 3 in each conference, and let's take a look at that. The AFC has the Bills at number 1, the Colts at number 2, and the Jaguars at number 3, ahead of teams like the Chargers and the Chiefs. That's number 2, 8, and 9 on the power rankings. The NFC is really top heavy. They have all but 3 of the top 10 teams. The Lions at number 1, Eagles at number 3, and the Rams at number 4 make up the top 3. But the Bucks at number 5, Packers at 6, and the Commanders at 7 make up a real strong top 6 for them. That's a tough NFC at the top. The AFC is stronger in the middle, but at the end of the day, it averages out, so the NFC is a little bit better, at least in my power rankings overall. That's what we think. Let me know what your thoughts are. I really would love to hear them. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll finish up with some talk about Joe Flacco and the Bengals. We'll be right back here on the Triple Threat Show. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, it's been a big NFL day. Lots to talk about today from around the world of football, including the big story from yesterday, Joe Flacco, the new QB1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, though, if you're new here, give us a follow. What are you doing? I appreciate you guys being here, but give us a follow everywhere, right? You can find us on every single platform, everywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, and more. You can find us on YouTube at Triple Threat Show, Twitch at 3 Threat Show, Instagram at 3 Threat Show, and on TikTok at _Triple Threat Show. Check us out everywhere. We appreciate you. But let's talk a little bit about Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, elite Joe Flacco, now on his 3rd team in the AFC North. And we kind of touched on it a little bit when we talked about where the Bengals are at in the power rankings. But Joe Flacco doesn't really move the needle for me too much. I like the move. It's an upgrade. No doubt about it. It's an upgrade over Jake Browning. It definitely is. And that's not saying much, though. You had plenty of options to go out there. One of the more concerning reports that I've seen with this story is that the Bengals didn't even try to get guys like Jameis Winston. They didn't even try to get guys like Russell Wilson. They didn't even try to go out and get guys like Andy Dalton. Instead, they called up the Browns and they said, hey, I want the cheapest quarterback possible. Give me the guy on the vet minimum. Give me Joe Flacco. That is just organizational malpractice. They needed to win this season. Zach Taylor needed to win this season. And while I don't necessarily think Zach Taylor is a good coach, well, I think Zach Taylor probably should have been fired last season, maybe even the season before then. They're not going to fire him, but they're not going to do anything to make his situation better. They needed to go out and get a quarterback that can not turn the ball over and find the receivers. And they got quarterbacks that can find the receivers. Joe Flacco can bomb it downfield. When he came to the Browns a couple years ago at the end of the year and they were in that playoff chase, he just bombed it deep and it worked. But now Joe Flacco is 40 years old. Now Joe Flacco doesn't have that same arm strength. He is not going to be able to step in and magically change this Bengals team fate. I like the move. I truly do like the move. But the fact of the matter is they didn't do their due diligence. They said, you know who we want? The first guy we can, the cheapest guy we can. And that's been the problem with this Bengals organization really for its entire existence. You can go back to Carson Palmer, really the first example of my lifetime that I can think of the Bengals being cheap. They have a franchise quarterback, and he says, pay me or trade me. And they said, pay you? I don't know if I can pay you, but trade you, we can certainly do that. He goes on to have a really good career elsewhere, right? Joe Burrow, he says, pay my guys. They say, Joe, that's going to hurt. Fine, we'll pay your guys. We'll pay you, we'll pay your guys. And then it comes to building a defense. A defense that when you went to the Super Bowl was the strength of your roster. I don't care if you had Jamar Chase. I don't care if you had Joe Burrow. I don't care if you had T. Higgins. The strength of that roster was the defense. You had Trey Hendrickson. You had Sam Hubbard, who retired. You had a really good you had a really good secondary. You had a really good pass rush. That is why you made the Super Bowl. As good as Joe Burrow is, and he's great, as good as Jamar and T. Higgins are, and they're great, you need a defense to win football games. It's an old adage, right? Defense wins championships, and that's half true. If you have a good defense, it makes it so much easier to win championships, because if you can stop the other team from scoring, you just need to get a couple lucky breaks. You just need to score twice instead of 5 times. You just need to score 3 times instead of having a perfect offensive game. And with the Bengals, a perfect offensive game is possible, but it's never easy. There's a reason why you don't see perfect offensive games all the time. There's a reason why teams aren't putting up 40 points every single week. It's because it's hard to do. You can do it. You can play the worst defense in the NFL, but you're still not guaranteed to put up 40 points every single time. And yet the Bengals are expecting their offense to go out and do that. Now, can Flacco save the Bengals? No. Can he keep them afloat where they're 1 game back in that division right now? Maybe. This is not an easy Bengals schedule, right? I mean, let's take a look at what's coming up for this Bengals squad, right? You have the Packers this week. That's tough. A divisional game on Thursday against the Steelers. It's a divisional game. You don't really know. The Jets, that's a winnable game for you. The Bears, also a winnable game, but the Bears have their moments where they just beat up on bad defenses. We saw it against the Cowboys. That's not an easy one. That's not an auto win in the column. The Steelers, another divisional game. The Patriots, another tough game. The Ravens later on in the season when they'll be healthy. The Bills, the Ravens again. The Dolphins, winnable game. Cardinals, I'll call that a winnable game as well. And then the Browns. You know what? I'll call that a winnable game despite you losing with Joe Burrow to this Browns team. That is at best 5 more wins for you. That's a 7-10 season for you guys that are at home that aren't keeping track, right? That's 3 more wins that I feel pretty confident about counting if I'm the Bengals. That puts you at 5-12. Joe Burrow's not coming back in December if you're not 500 or better. He's not going to risk his career to come back for this Bengals team if you can't be 500 at this point. With the offense that they have, they should be competitive, but they can't get anything done. Will Joe Flacco help them? Yes, he will help them. He's better than Jake Browning. But how much better than Jake Browning is he? It's not that much. There's a reason that he was so cheap. There's a reason it was just a 5th and 6th round pick swap to get Joe Flacco. And it's not a reason for the Cincinnati Bengals to be excited. Go out, get Jameis. Be excited. He's going to turn the ball over, but he's going to throw for 500 yards too. That's what you should have done. That's a quarterback that fits your team. Get him, figure it out, because 3 weeks from now, you might be putting Jake Browning back in the game. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll touch on playoff baseball. Hockey season kicks off. The bag of tricks, as I'm going to call it here, in sports, coming up next here on the Triple Threat Show. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a beautiful Wednesday, October 8th. If you were just tuning in, we just went over a lot of football, but football is not the only thing going on right now. Believe it or not, there's other sports that are taking place, including the playoffs in one. The MLB playoffs are here in full force. We had a couple of really good games last night. 4 games today. 4 of them. First pitch at 3 p.m. between the Mariners and the Tigers. Let's start off in that one. The Mariners take a 2-1 series lead behind the power of the big dumper. If you didn't see it, Cal Raleigh hits his 61st home run of the season. It doesn't count toward the record books because playoffs, but 61st home run of the season. The reason I'm touching on this one specifically is because they hit it to a fan that was wearing a Dump 61 Here shirt here. And you know what was even better about that? He took that shirt off immediately after catching the 61st home run and had a shirt that said Dump 62 Here. That is elite fan play right there. That is how you get your team to a World Series, and this is a Mariners team that, if they continue to play like this, is going to be very, very dangerous. That pitching, elite. The bullpen did not live up, did not let anybody in until that 9th inning when they were throwing the guys that just weren't really going to get a lot of run in the playoffs. Shout out to the Mariners. The Tigers are just not good enough to keep pace with them. Tigers are favored in this game coming up, Game 4, 3 p.m. here. Bryce Miller on the mound for the Mariners. Casey Mize on the mound for the Tigers. I'm leaning with the Mariners here. I think they take care of business, win this series in 4 games. The other game that took place last night and the next one that not the next one, but we'll stay in the AL. The Toronto Blue Jays looked to close out the New York Yankees last night, and they looked like they were going to. Up 6-1 in that game, but then the Bronx Bombers came out. Aaron Judge hit a home run. Jazz Chisholm hit a home run, and all of a sudden it was 8-6. The Yankees with the lead. The Yankees never looked back after that. They get the rookie sensation Cam Schlittler on the mound to go up against Luis Varland for the Blue Jays here tonight. If Aaron Judge can keep playing like he is hitting nearly 600 in these playoffs, nearly 500 in these playoffs, That's insane. That's not normal. This is a really good Yankees squad. Aaron Judge is really good. He's probably going to win the MVP again. But these offensive numbers are concerning. The Blue Jays put up their worst offensive run total, but Vladdy's hit a home run in each of the first 3 games of this series. That's not going to be enough. I need to see more from this Yankees pitching staff. If Schlittler can shut them down, this makes this really interesting Game 5 back in Toronto. But the Blue Jays have famously not been great on the road, 40-41 in the regular season. Back at home, though, they've been dominant. So we'll see if anything will change. Game 4 tonight. I think I'm rocking with the Yankees in this one, actually. Cam Schlittler looks like he's going to be able to take it out. And like I said, the Blue Jays just have not been able to get things going on the road. Let's jump over to the NL side of things here first, because both of these series at 2-0, two closeout games for two closeout games here. We'll start off with the Cubs and the Brewers. The Brewers have just dominated the Cubs 7-3, 9-3 in the first two games of this series. Jameson Taillon on the mound for the Cubs and Quinn Priester on the mound for the Brewers. This one is I just don't think the Cubs have it, honestly. We can talk about all the ways that the Cubs have had the ability to stay with this team, to have the opportunity, but the offense for the Brewers is going, and with the pitching of the Brewers, I just don't really see it. They went through a bullpen game, and they still dominated. Quinn Priester just needs to go 5 innings, and they'll be just fine. In the other game, Dodgers, Phillies. This one also, I want to say this series is going to continue. I do. Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound, who's had a really good year. His first playoff outing, 6.2 innings of shutout baseball. Aaron Nola on the mound. They got their ace out there, or at least what should be their ace. These two games have been close, and it's been 5-3, 4-3, which means this one is going to be 3-3. I'm kidding. I'm taking the Phillies in this one. They're going to extend this series. Kyle Schwarber's going to hit a home run, and Bryce Harper also is going to hit a home run. One of those two will be a walk-off. I'm taking the Philadelphia Phillies to extend the series. One series will end tonight. Two series will end tonight. The Mariners and the Brewers will move on. Yankees, Blue Jays, Dodgers, Phillies will play another day, and we will wait for the NL and ALCS coming up next. We also saw the NHL season puck drop last night. A couple of big games for them. We saw the Florida Panthers raise their second straight banner. The Florida Panthers did. Shout out to them. They win 3-2 over the Blackhawks. You saw the Penguins. The Penguins, who are supposed to be really bad, going up against the New York Rangers, who have playoff aspirations, win 3-0 in the first game. Shilos played really great in goal for them. If that can continue, that's going to be a dangerous team. Again, you just need to get goalie. That's all it takes sometimes. And the Avs continue their hot stretch, 4-1 over the Kings. The Avs are going to be really good this year. Natchez, who was a trade acquisition for them, 2 goals in this one. McKinnon, 2 assists, and this is just an absolute domination. Tonight, the NHL continues. The Caps and Bruins puck drop. First game for both of them. Alex Ovechkin on his race for 1,000 goals. We'll see. He probably has to play at least 2 seasons for that one. Don't know if he'll get there. The Canadiens and the Maple Leafs, a battle for Canada. The Flames and the Oilers, another battle for Canada. And then we're going to get to see the new look Golden Knights take on the Kings, who have already played 2 games in a row for them. They're looking to get something going. But let me know what your thoughts are on anything from around the world of sports. There's a lot more going on as well, right? The WNBA, they could have an elimination game for their finals tonight, as the Aces are up 2-0 over the Mercury. They're looking to close it out at 8 p.m. tonight. Keep an eye on that one. That has been a really, really fun series so far, honestly, and hopefully we get to see more of it. Game 2 was a blowout, but game 1 was a 3-point game that really looked like it could go either way. Keep an eye on all that stuff. We will be back on Friday for game picks, and more. We'll talk about all of the NFL games, the big college football slate this week. We'll talk, of course, about everything else going on around sports, but I can't wait to see you then. This has been the Triple Threat Show. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus.